Hello and welcome to a new episode of Alex's Tracks. My name is Alex, and today we will be discussing one of my favorite tanks and a common tank in World War II, a tank that's all about the speed and agility. It's none other than the British Cromwell. The Cromwell is one of the many tanks used by Great Britain during the Second World War, and it's a common one at that, with it seeing extensive action all throughout the battles against the Axis. It spawned numerous variants and even saw use post-war until the 60s. The Cromwell tanks began its development during 1940. Named after Oliver Cromwell, an English Civil War leader, this tank was built to replace the Crusader tank. It was foreseen that the Crusaders would end up being obsolete, hence a new tank is needed to take its place. Several firms have submitted different proposals for the new tank, and this led to the creation of the A-24 Cavalier, the A-27 Centaur, and the A-27M Cromwell. Out of the three, the Cromwell was the one to be mass-produced. It too has itself many different iterations, starting from the Cromwell Mark I all the way to the Cromwell Mark VIII. Now this tank is what's known as a cruiser tank. It's a concept that you see quite often in the British Army. Also known as cavalry tanks or simply fast tanks, these are tanks that are meant for mobility and speed, and that idea can be seen quite clearly in the Cromwell's design. The engine was a Rolls-Royce Meteor V12 petrol engine capable of giving 600 horsepower. This, combined with its relatively light weight, gives this tank excellent mobility in the battlefield, reaching speeds up to 40 miles per hour. When it comes to the guns, you can see that a lot of the different variants showcase different armaments. The most numerous of the variants, that being the Mark IV Cromwell, featured the 75mm ROQF Mark V gun. Meanwhile, other variants feature guns such as the British 6-pounder gun and the 95mm howitzer. These guns are the quick-firing guns able to fire many rounds at a time, albeit without the ability to pack a lot of punch. So the speed is great, and the gun is alright. The armor, it's a different story. The Cromwells aren't known to be well armored. With up to 3 inches of armor at most, it can take a few hits from small caliber rounds, but it definitely would not stand a chance against many of the German guns at the time. Combined with the boxy layout of the tank, let's just say it's not gonna stand up against the German Tiger. At least, not directly anyways. Now, when it comes to performance on the field, Cromwells are known to be one of, if not the most used British cruiser tank of World War II. Entering service in 1943, these tanks have become the main equipment of British armoured divisions, from the Allied invasions of Normandy all the way till the post-war with the Korean War. These tanks were used all throughout, though they weren't necessarily the most favoured. The standard 75mm gun could tackle the majority of German armoured vehicles, and the Hichi shell was effective. However, these guns simply could not penetrate the front of heavier German tanks, such as the Tiger or the Panther. The small shells with low penetration power just isn't enough for the thick, sloped German armor. The issue with the gun was perhaps most pronounced during the Battle of Villers-Bocage, in which the Cromwells were unable to engage German Tiger tanks frontally with any reasonable chance of success. That being said, where this tanks lack in firepower, it makes up for in speed. In most armored divisions, these tanks were used as armored reconnaissance regiments, and they were pretty good at that. Once the Normandy-Bocage countries were left behind and speed became more important in tank versus tank battles, the Cromwell did just the job, albeit with a few faults. Still, these tanks proved useful in the battlefield during the Second World War before its eventual replacement by the A-34 Comet. All in all, the Cromwell was a unique attempt by the British to build a fast, speedy, and maneuverable tank to be used on the battlefield. Sure, it still has some faults, it's no Sherman for sure, but it still does the job, and does it well. But what do you think? Do you think the Cromwell is a good tank? Do leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and do consider subscribing for more content. If you would like me to cover any particular tank of interest, do let us know in the comments. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Alex signing out.